Hey there. So recently I put up a video about the workbench I've been working on. And what I didn't show in that was I also built a few workbench accessories that are really useful or maybe even essential for using hand tools on a workbench like this. So in this video I'd like to kind of go through those accessories and how they work and how they let you work faster with hand tools. The first bench accessory I'd like to talk about is this thing called a HoldFast. So it's basically a large metal rod that's bent into sort of an L shape, although the L is less than 90 degrees, as you can see there, and that's important. So this is really old technology, at least back to ancient Rome, probably further, and it is so cool once you kind of discover the magic of a HoldFast. So the idea is you start with a bench top like I have here, and anywhere that you might want to hold something down, you just drill a simple, I think this is a 3/4 inch hole. And then get something that you want to clamp down. Just take a board here, and then you drop the HoldFast into the hole, and then you give it a whack right on top with a mallet. And then here's the magic part. It's held fast. So that quickly you can just clamp anything down to your bench. The cool part about it too is it works vertically. So up here on the front of my apron, or the front apron of the bench, I have holes as well, and you can put HoldFasts in those, and they will clamp just as well vertically as they do horizontally. Now, you might be asking yourself, okay, great, how do you get this loose? Well, it's just as easy as clamping it down. Just give it a whack or two on the back, and boom, it comes out. That's it. So you hit it from the back side to release it, hit it from the top side to clamp it in, and that's it. Super simple, super fast. I love these. So one thing I forgot to mention about the HoldFast is, well, obviously I didn't make this. I'm not a blacksmith. You can actually make these out of wood. That's what they made them out of a long time ago. The metal ones are a little more durable. Like I said, I didn't make this. I did modify it though. I scuffed up the long rod part of here so that it would grip in the hole a little bit better. Just took a little sandpaper, scuffed it up a bit. But the bigger thing is, you can see right here, I put leather pads. So I just got a sheet of thick leather off Amazon, cut out the right shape to cover the foot or the pad of the HoldFast, and then with some contact cement I cemented it on there. So the advantage to this is it won't mar the board or other wood that you're clamping down because the leather is kind of soft. Normally you would have little blocks of scrap wood and you would put it between the board that you were clamping down and the HoldFast, so that the HoldFast would mar the little scrap wood but not the board that you were being careful with. But with the leather pad attached, no need to do that. So that's my only modification for the HoldFast, but helps a lot. Okay, the next two bench accessories are number one, the planing stop. So the planing stop is used when you're trying to plane the face of a board and you need something to hold the end of the board or to act as a stop for the end of the board so that you can plane. So the key part here is you want the planing stop to be lower than the board you're planing so that the plane can just shoot right off the end of the board. You don't run into any obstructions, especially any metal obstructions. So there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of different configurations for planing stops. This is just a simple one, which is two round pegs that are glued and plane flush on a piece of wood. Very simple. I made this in about an hour, I think. and then fits into 2 holes on my bench. So I have a nice secure something to butt up a board against. So then, if I want to plane this face, I then take my hand plane, and there you go. I can plane and shoot right off the end of the board, no problem. But there's another problem in that if you're planing in such a way that it might move the board, like that, for instance, well, that can kind of put a damper on your style. So there's another bench accessory to help solve that problem. And this is called a doze foot. So this is another really old piece of technology. Really all it is a thin board. This is just some 1/4-inch plywood that I had lying around, scrap, and I cut a 90-degree angle out of the corner of it. So what we do then with that is fit that onto the corner of the board that I'm trying to plane, and then we use our trusty HoldFast, drop it into a hole, give it a whack, and now that board is held quite securely. So even though it's only on this corner, usually when you're planing, you're either pushing towards the plane stop or maybe you're kind of pushing the board back towards the back of the bench, which the doze foot helps to stop. So it doesn't look like it's held very securely, but I can assure you, like, it's in there pretty well, so it does a good job. So that's the planing stop, and the doze foot allows you to plane with ease. This bench accessory is called a bench hook. So the reason it's called a hook is it has this strip of wood, if you can see that, on the back side of it. And this one I've just screwed into the back of this board. And the hook part is that strip pushes up against the edge of the bench, or hooks the edge of the bench, I guess. Then it also typically has a stop up here, and so what you can do, there's a couple of uses for this, but the first one is you can use it to cross-cut small pieces. So you just push the piece you're trying to cut up against the stop, and that has the effect of also pushing the bench hook against the edge of the bench. So you get a very secure hold, and then you can just saw away on a small piece. Alright, I'm not going to go all the way through there, but the other use for this is for a shooting board. So one feature of this bench hook is this stop is actually just wedged into this recess in the board. So the reason for that is, let's see, we can just tap that into place there. But the reason for that is a lot of times you want to saw a piece, and then you want to plane away and get a perfect 90-degree angle on the sawed surface. So what you do is, again, sort of like the configuration when you push a small piece up against the backstop and you saw. Well, in this case, you're just going to put the piece just slightly over the edge, and you're going to put your plane sideways, and you're just going to run the plane right along the edge of the shooting board. So in this case, this is why it's important that this stop can be removed and either remade or whatever, because this stop is kind of sacrificial. It'll actually stay a little bit beyond the edge of the board, and it gets planed as well. So that allows you to eliminate tear out on the piece you're planing, while also getting a perfect 90-degree cut on whatever you just sawed or whatever you're trying to get 90 degrees. So this is really good for getting rid of saw marks. It's also good for sneaking up on the fit of something. If you just want to shave off a tiny amount and that's perfectly 90 degrees, then you can do that. As a shooting board also, this is kind of a 90-degree configuration if you want to plane something that's 90 degrees. But you can create recesses that are 45 degree or really whatever angle you want on here by cutting new recesses and putting new wedges into this. So this would be ideal if I were making, let's say, picture frames and I wanted to get a really tight miter joint where two 45 degree cuts meet up perfectly. I could make a new stop for this that's 45 degrees and then plane a board to a perfect 45 degree angle. So that's what a shooting board and bench hook are used for. All right, last but not least is probably the strangest one of the bunch. This is probably the least common one as well, so I'm not even sure what the proper name for this is. I call it a HoldFast vise. So usually a workbench will have a face vise that goes right around here, and you use that to clamp boards like on end, like this, amongst other things. So you can use that to then hold the board while you cut dovetails or things of that nature. So my bench does not have a face vise, but this strange looking board can kind of do the job of it. So it's really just a scrap, I think 2x6 that I had lying around. And I glued on these little rests. So what happens, the way we use this, is we put two HoldFasts through each of the holes here, and we slide the feet of the HoldFast into those little retaining blocks. So, and then we take this whole thing, and I've got it positioned such that sometimes it's a little tricky to get in there, so that the chop or the other side of the vise is about even with the bench top. So you'll notice it kind of slides in and out like a vise, and slides pretty quickly. So there's no turning a screw or anything. And then what we do is put whatever board we're trying to hold vertically in there. Just going to hold that with my knee for a second. And then down here, as I mentioned, HoldFasts work vertically as well as horizontally, so we just give those a few good whacks. And now that board is held very tightly, just with a couple of HoldFasts and this strange looking chop that I made. So now I can do dovetailing or really anything else. And again, to release it, you just take your mallet, hit the back side of the HoldFast. It's a little awkward doing it from that angle. And the board falls out. So there we go. There's my HoldFast vise. So there you have it. There's all my bench accessories. And so even though they are old school technology, they work every bit, maybe even better than modern technology, in my opinion. So thanks for watching, and hopefully in upcoming videos I'll be showing off how to use these to make some actual furniture.